Okay, it is 5:32. So we're going to get started. First of all, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. It's always great to see community involvement, isn't it, in Medina? It's kind of what we're known for. And a few things I want to mention before we get started. Differences of opinion are okay. I mean, differences of opinion are the grease in the mechanism of how we make good decisions. You know, we talk about things, we get each other's ideas, and then we let it percolate. Make sure that when we get to the final decision that we've taken enough into account, that we looked at facts, we've looked at real evidence, not just anecdotal evidence. We've studied the issue. And that's how we get good decisions. So whether we agree or disagree, we want to get the right decision no matter what issue we're working on. It's what we've done here for years. Think of the courthouse as an example. The county was expanding the courthouse. They wanted to tear down the 1969 building. We didn't want them to tear it down, right? We were at loggerheads. And if we had stuck with an either or, just this is how it is or it stays like this, then the courthouse would have been torn down. But we're smart enough here to work with another jurisdiction and work out our differences and come to a good decision. And now, sometime in the near future, we expect that our municipal court will be on the square and the building didn't get torn down, and we maintain our good working relationship with the county administration that's so important to us and so important to the community because we all pay taxes. So our money, no matter where we pay, whether it's the city of Medina or our money that goes to the county, it's all our money. So we want a good decision. And nothing is different here. This is the same thing. And it's always tough when there are folks that really have this opinion about how they feel about deer in the community, and then there are folks that see it completely differently. And so we have a responsibility here not to react, not to be hasty, not to do the either or, but to look carefully at what we do before we make a decision, because a lot of decisions you can't change and go back. That's why it's taken this much time and will probably take a little bit longer, regardless of where we end up. And wherever we end up tonight, there is another meeting. And then when this comes out of committee, it will go to city council, and there will be the city council meetings, and everybody will have that opportunity once again to come in and listen and voice their opinion. One thing I know we do very well here is we respect one another. At the last meeting, there was a gentleman here who threatened two women regarding their dog and left the conversation at, if your dog came in my yard, I would shoot him. Totally inappropriate. So we'll proceed here. The agenda that I put out has an addition to it, and we're not going to follow the agenda top to bottom, but we will get through the whole thing. Then we will have an opportunity to, everybody will have an opportunity for public input. I would expect an hour and a half if it takes that long. I think it'll be informative tonight, what you're going to hear. The Parks Director is here. The Parks Director has been responsible for working with the Department of Natural Resources in Ohio. That is where the deer survey came from that many people responded to. And he has information to share tonight with you regarding the survey. Earl Olson and Dennis Reese are here. And the interesting thing about their presentation is they manufacture a deer repellent that is waterproof, and the neatest thing about it, other than they will explain to you that it works, is that it's manufactured right here in Medina. So it's a Medina-made product, which will be interesting to hear about. And then I have some things to talk to you about a deer management plan as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to introduce the Parks and Recreation Director to let him fill us in on the information that he has gleaned over time, as well as the information that he currently has on the survey that many of you probably took. Jensen?
Thank you, Councilman Lamb. Before we get started, I just wanted to review what we as a city have been doing since 2016, when we developed a management process to start recording trend data regarding deer in the city. So in the beginning of 2016, we have provided or developed an annual report in regards to deer vehicle accidents, carcass pickups. We created a community survey that was posted on the Parks Department website. We have documented and went out and assessed damage complaints with city residents, as well as conducted an annual visual deer survey spotlighting deer with Parks Department staff 4 times in the fall, typically 2 days in October and 2 days in November, at predetermined locations in all of the wards throughout the city. We use these predetermined locations so that we are, when we're dispatching the crews to go out and assess and do the survey, they're going to the exact same locations and recording relatively accurate data every time they go out. The second part of that management process was to improve our public relations. So we provided resources to residents on the Parks Department website. We developed a technical guidance for deer management, common practices that could be used to address deer concerns on your own property. And we also released some information in the utility bills discouraging residents from feeding deer. We worked with the ODNR, developing a five-step process for property owners, where when they recognize they have a deer problem, the options that they have to utilize the resources, such as the City of Medina website, contacting our Parks Department, contacting the Division of Wildlife, or as a final alternative, scheduling a site visit with the Division of Wildlife. Just to run through some of that data real briefly, our deer vehicle accidents since 2016, I'm not going to read all the numbers because they tend to get lost. Last year we had 17 deer vehicle accidents. The lowest number we've had since 2016 was 13. The deer carcasses that we've picked up in our Streets Department and Parks Department, in 2021, we picked up 55 deer carcasses. Majority of them were likely caused from vehicle collisions, many of which did not go reported. The lowest we've had is 17. So far this year, to date, we've picked up 19. Our visual deer survey, last year, 2021, we averaged 161 deer at those in those 4 wards at the predetermined locations. The low was in 2016, we had 92 deer. In addition to those sources of data, we contracted with the USDA Animal, Plant, and Health Inspection Service. Their wildlife services conducted a thermal imager survey throughout town in March of 2020. The survey lasted approximately 7 hours. They drove and surveyed approximately 85% of the city. In that, they counted 504 deer, recorded their GPS locations, and documented it in a report that was provided to the city. With 85% of the city being counted, that yielded a range of approximately 504 to 593 deer. And that was through a cooperative service agreement with the USDA. The community survey that has got a lot of attraction since our last meeting, I have a report to go through. Can I finish, please? Then we can? Is that okay? So we conducted the survey that went out via the police department Facebook page. In total, we had 1,252 responses, over 4,000 page visits. And once we went through those, a summary of those answers, approximately 91 of the responses were from city residents. We figured that out by when the first question asked what street you live on. Again, to reiterate what Councilman Lamb said, the survey was created following guidance from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Wildlife, their technical management guide for urban white-tailed deer. I recently, prior to this meeting, had resident surveys hand-delivered to me. There were 331 that were sent out, and 25% of them have been returned. So before we go through this data, these ones that were provided to me in paper today are not included in these numbers.
Jensen, just one thing about that. There are some people who live in Mr. Marquard's survey area that are included in your survey.
Okay.
I just want to make sure. So there may be some duplication
Yeah.
there. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so one of the first questions that we asked, obviously a very important one, how long have you been a resident with the city of Medina? Over 41% of the surveys were completed by residents that have lived here for more than 20 years, and 23% have been here for 11 to 20 years. The next question, which was required to be answered by everybody, how do you describe the deer population in your neighborhood the last 5 years? 63% believed it was increasing, 34% believed it was stable. I'm not going to highlight all the answers, just going to focus on the majority of responses. How would you describe the deer population in the city the last 5 years? The pie chart there is showing that 71% believed the population was increasing, and 27% felt that it was stable. What would you like to see the deer population numbers do in the city of Medina? 61% preferred that it decrease, 35% prefer that it remain the same. During the last month, how many deer have you seen on your property? 38% have seen 1 to 5 deer, 29% have seen 6 to 10 deer, and 13% have seen 11 to 20 deer. There was a question added to include 0 deer on your property, and 19 people responded that they've seen 0 deer. How many issues, or how many have you experienced issues with deer on your property during the last year? 65% responded yes, 34% responded no. If you answered yes to that question, what types of deer issues have you experienced on your property? 64% of the surveys said they've seen damage to annuals, 69% have seen damage to perennials, 41% to garden products, and 36% responded that they've almost hit a deer with their vehicle. What measures have you taken to deer-proof your property? This question's out there because a lot of times that is often the first question that we're asking when people call us. 39% of the surveys said that they have done nothing. 44% have tried smell repellents, 33% have tried taste repellents, and 42% have at least tried planting deer-resistant plants. In the past, who have you contacted regarding deer issues in your property? This one was quite surprising. 85% have contacted people other than the mayor's office, councilman, Division of Wildlife, Parks Department, or our service department. How concerned are you about deer vehicle accidents? 28% are slightly concerned, 25% were extremely concerned, and 28% were moderately concerned. And the last question that I'm going to go over here is what types of lethal control measures do you feel should be permitted, if any, in the city? 32% felt that we should not use lethal control, and the remaining were all lethal control options, and that totals 67.5%. One thing that I just wanted to mention before I wrap up here, white-tailed deer are an important component of biodiversity within our community. They have significant economic, ecological, and social value. I don't think there's any disagreeing with that. However, without management, problems can arise as the population increases and approaches the environmental carrying capacity. Urban areas, such as the city of Medina, are able to support much higher deer densities, higher birth output. There's an abundance of food, and there's a lack of predators. Consequently, because of that, overabundant deer can cause damage to landscapes, which a lot of people are experiencing. They can negatively impact safety and threaten our ecosystem. As deer densities increase, health problems within the herd are also more likely to happen, including starvation, increased numbers of parasites, and increased chances for diseases. One final note from a park standpoint that I wanted to mention, an ecological concern for us is that the deer continue to negatively affect the understory of our parks and open areas. The understory, as we all know, serves an important function in the environment and our forest. It's commonly used for foraging, nesting, protection of birds, insects, small mammals, and pollinators. Deer browse lines, if you live close to any of our parks, are evident in every one of them. Without management, the deer continue to physically alter the characteristics of these areas, impact tree regeneration, health and vigor of the trees. There's very little plant diversity and reduction and near elimination of wildflowers and all of our other native understory species. I just wanted to point that out. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those regarding the survey.
You're going to need to go to the microphone, sir.
Are you okay with that?
Come back here to the table if you want.
I have two questions. Number one, you made a comment that it's indisputable that there's economic value to deer. I would question that statement. Can you rebalance that statement? It's undisputable that there's an economic value to deer in the city of Medina?
Well, they're economically not in the city of Medina, but sport and game is a significant.
But you said in the city of Medina it's undisputable that.
I didn't say it was undisputable.
You did say it's undisputable.
They sell jerky though around.
My second question is, you mentioned that there were 17 accidents by deer. Is that a fixed number? Is that from insurance reports? Is that from police reports? You didn't mention the source of the data.
When I was going through the trend data, deer vehicle accidents are part of police records.
Thank you.
If you could just give your name and address, please. Thank you.
My name is Bob Krulik, 857 Westwood Drive.
Thank you. And I just want to correct and you would have no knowledge of this. We went through the police reports today, and there are 15. Actually, 2 of them weren't in town. I love it when you look at me like that.
Yeah, the numbers that I have are from the records department, and they highlighted which were in Lafayette Township and which were in the city, so I didn't come up with those.
Yeah, it's okay. I met with the police chief.
Yeah, Councilman Lamb and I sat down, we went and did a hand check of each one. There were 2 inside the 17 that were just outside of the city.
Yeah. So thank you, and I appreciate the help from with when we've worked on this issue, really, from the Parks Director who just spoke, the Service Director, the Mayor, the Police Chief, who I've spent time with talking about this, so that we can do, like I said in the beginning, try to take a really hard look at this and make sure what we do is going to be correct. My purpose in looking at the record of the deer car accidents wasn't really to see if the 17 or the 15 were in town. It is because I was trying to see where they took place, to see if there was a way we could, what it is we could do at certain places in town where there was clearly would be more likelihood of a deer car accident than other places, because we have a variety of speed limits from 25 to 35 to 45, I believe, within the city. And so I was trying to see if there were certain places we could mitigate the possibility of accidents between a deer and a car by looking at where they were located. And just with the police chief happened to come across that a couple of them were close, but weren't quite in. So. Pardon? Well, they were until the accident. Right. Okay, thank you. Earl Olson and Dennis Reeser.
May I ask a question, sir?
Yes. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
That's all right, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask a question. My name is Michael Marquardt, first of all. I live in Forest Meadows. I live on Shorewood Drive. We also, since you were talking about the survey, I want to share that I have given to the Parks Director, and I have a copy for the chairman up there, of the survey that we did. And we actually used the Medina City survey. We went out 8 days ago. We walked 331 houses. We received 25% back in a period of 7 days that strongly encourage council representatives to read the various comments that we are going to give to you in regards to the deer in the city of Medina. Out of the residents, 53 of them have been in this town over 20 years and have watched since 2013 the promise of us taking a look at deer. In that, the number of deer, a couple things that bother the citizens of Forest Meadows is in the survey, over 35 of them almost hit deer. We have more than, out of the 80 people that came back, they see over 20 deer in their backyard every day. That's a pretty significant number. Now, we live adjacent to Reagan Park, if you don't know where Forest Meadows is. So we do have a lot of the deer that do come out of that area, which is where they belong to be. But hit by a deer, there's been 6 people. Aggressive, moderate, concerned vehicle accidents. Our numbers are higher than what the survey came out in 8 days of being there. Our survey, we love the survey. We love being able to share that survey, and that's why I wanted to do this now since you're on the survey. But lethal control came out to be actually, departments contacted came out to be 55 out of the 85. So 55 of those people have been actively contacting either the mayor's office, their councilman, out of there. So these are active people in our city that are actively trying to get something done. I believe in the white doe. I believe in the deer. I have them born every year in my backyard. I can see them in my woods. I wouldn't have a problem if they didn't come out of the woods that are there. We all love the deer. They just need to be controlled. And that's why we did the survey. They need to be taken care of. We've been talking about this since 2013, which is the first time that I found it on the website. 2016, we came out with the management of the deer, and nothing's been done since then. I think the citizens of Medina deserve better than that. And our survey will show that. I'm going to give you, Mr. Councilman, I do have for you copies of it also. I've given it to our councilmen, to both of ours, and hand-delivered to them today, so you can look. Please read what they're saying. We're asking. We need help. This needs management. Thank you.
We're going to have public input when we get to the end. Yeah, I recognized you. Oh. No, yours wasn't a question. Yours was a comment. That's fine. Surely, go ahead. Just give your name.
Tanya Rogers. I live at 686 West Liberty Street, which is over here by Thank you. Thank you. All right. I know we've talked a lot about damage to cars, damage to plants. Now we're talking about deer, okay? Have we looked at the number of ticks that have come out of this? Do we have more deer ticks? Do we have more coyotes? We had a coyote in our backyard with our 18 deer. I mean, this is something that is a possibility, you know, and it's something to look at, because deer ticks do spread disease, and coyote, one of them ate my cat. So, so as much as you like or dislike deer, again, I believe that management would be important. I don't know if we've looked at any
Thank
of those.
you. I can tell you, the survey did not look at that, but I think it's important to understand that I hear what you're saying and I hear your concern. But in a real sense, I mean, deer have suffered from the idea that this is a deer tick That same deer tick that we talk about is on 100 other wild animals. So every single animal that you see in town that is wild is likely carrying a deer tick. And if we were to, any wild animal that you would, we're not going to, wait. We can't have cross-talking? Okay, we have to understand that we have a way to operate this meeting so everybody can hear and participate. There is no disease currently in Ohio from deer. And the tick that's on a deer is on 100 other wild animals. So when we talk about it, every single thing that we take into consideration for how we're going to work to mitigate the issues that Mr. Marquardt just talked about, the things happening in that neighborhood, we need to try to make sure we're looking at what's factual. One of the most interesting things I think about, that we've heard already tonight is that on the city, contacting people in the city, we have a record of that. And 1,200 people, which is great, participated in the survey. But of all those people that have an issue that participated in the survey, almost no one called the city. So we don't want to deal with just the anecdotal, we have an issue. We need to have an understanding of the issue, and then not just that there is one, but how do we deal with it for all of these different things that arrive in different people's neighborhoods and different people's lawns? Because we know particularly what 3 areas in town you will see the biggest herds of deer. Where are most of the deer? We know where they are. It is not citywide. So we want to kind of stay on track with sticking with that fundamental information that is the baseline for what we can pin a decision on. And so Earl Olson is here and Dennis Reese for a few minutes. They're going to talk about a great product made in Medina because I have used deer spray for years and I have learned more about it in the past month than I did when I was trying to save my own plants. And it is that you need to apply and use deer deterrent early in the season before the deer actually start so that there is something on the plants, and then you have to be consistent. And most things wash off in the rain. You can buy them for $14 to $24. You spray them, great. My attempt to do it was not always good because I would not remember to respray them and then they got eaten. But this product that they're going to take a few minutes to share with you, I looked at last week with them. It is made in Medina and it's different than spray. So we're going to give them a few minutes to talk to you right now. Dennis? Microphone.
Okay, is that better? Good evening, Mayor Hanwell, council members, police chief, and all the community service members that are here that I don't really know but recognize the wonderful work that you do to make our greater Medina County area such a great place to live. So thank you for the opportunity to present here. I am Dennis Reese. Earl Olson here is sitting back in, and is going to correct anything that I say from the presentation. Earl is the president of Olson Products. He's an entrepreneur. His plant is near the fairgrounds there. He has been in the non-toxic pest control arena for 40-plus years and is well known within the industry. The Deer Guard product that I'm going to talk about today is manufactured at Earl's facility right here in Medina. I am a garage inventor. I came up with a special sauce with some research. I tried it 3 years ago on my property. It worked. I took it to several of the neighbors and told them how to apply it, and it worked for them. I said, maybe I've got something here. I went to Earl. Earl took a look at it and says, I think you do have something here. And we have formed a relationship where it's being now distributed to retail locations. The value of our product, a little background for myself. I live in a township. I do take part with the Medina City Services. This is a particular product that is non-volatile, non-violent. If I would just phrase the product as to what its value is, it keeps the deer off of your plants, your investment in your flowers, all the items that you have that you want to protect. So fundamentally, it'll protect your yard, and if I was to say how it works, it's to protect your yard and encourage the deer to move your neighbor's yard. So they have a problem. So the real solution here is if everybody in Medina bought this product, all the deer would move to Summit County or something on that order, and we'd have it. I'm a retired Navy captain. I also have a small company that I have in working in the IT industry for screening for human resource applications. My wife, who has passed out the pamphlets that we wanted to use today. We've been married 50-plus happy years, and she would want to. I want to ask: does anybody not have the two handouts and the packet? Everybody, oh, we're good to go. Okay, Deer Guard itself is a deer repellent. It has a special sauce that's the repellent. It attaches to a special proprietary glue that is under Earl's purview. He invented that. So the repellent is attached to the glue that rides on a 3/16-inch plastic strip. It comes in a two size boxes, 150 foot and 500 feet. So that's kind of hard to sometimes realize the distance, but 150 feet, that's 50 yards in the football field. 500 is a football, it's 20 yards short of 2 football fields. So that's the value. Everybody says, well, what does it cost? This particular product is in a $25 range, plus or minus, depending upon what the retailer wants to do with it. This one is in the neighborhood of 62 to 67, depending upon what the retailer wants to sell it for. So the advantage of this particular product is that it is insoluble to rain. Now, eventually it will wear away, but it's season lasting if indeed it's applied correctly and the weather is certainly cooperative. Certainly rubbing on the plants, certainly torrential rains can destroy it just as it can any other product. But the scenario that I'd like to paint here is when you're using a spray or the granules and rain occurs, you have an investment out there, and you have to, as Councilman Lamb said, you have to go out and remember to spray again. With this particular product, we call it place and forget. You place it on your flowers, encircle it, weave it at the length and position at the length that you need, because it comes out of the box on a rolled mechanisms that's inside, and you place it at deer browse height. So depending upon the size of the plant, you'd wrap it on the top. If on the width, you might encircle, wrap it, and it will definitely work. Will it be 100%? No, nothing's 100%. I'd be telling a falsehood. But people say it's certainly 90% effective. And the feedback has been extremely good, and the suggestions have been extremely good as to how and they have used it. Maybe some of you folks have already used it. That would be great if you could speak to the product later in a question period. So the rain does not affect the effectiveness of the product, and the Deer Guard is an all-season, every season product that we are making a claim that it'll last at least 3 months in typical fashion. So deer eat 12 months a year, so you need protection all along that timeline. Spraying and granules do not do that. The ribbon and the cards that I'm going to discuss will do that and give you some defense protection. We also will make the claim that it's not 100% perfect, and what we want you to consider is a defense plan, that you do use the product and that you also integrate other sprays and granules when you can. Because the deer are fairly intelligent, they know what they like to eat, they know what they don't like to eat. But the young ones, they don't really care. They're the ones who probably are the most destructive. So have a plan, mix up your scents, S-C-N-T, scents, and give them a different smell each time so that they are confused. One of the other features of the product is, and you have that in your small Ziploc bag, is there is no smell to this product. One of the problems with the granular and the sprays are they really smell with rotten eggs and things on that. If you want to, you can open that little bag, take a sniff. I ask you to don't touch the sample ribbon in there because it is sticky. It has some stickiness to it, but there you will see that there is no smell from the actual repellent itself. The stickiness can be removed very easily with a dish liquid soap, Dawn or something along those lines. Use that full strength and clean off the stickiness, and then use the water with it and it'll go away. Or you can use directly vegetable oil and it'll dissolve it. We started supplying gloves with each of the boxes here. They're nitrate gloves at this point, and they're really just starter gloves to encourage you to use them. They will eventually get a little gummy, but if indeed you dedicate a very cheap pair of garden gloves to the process, you can clean the garden gloves easily by putting them on and rubbing them in the dirt, and it takes care of the stickiness, and you can continue to use that glove for that special purpose. Okay, we tried to make this into one of the problems we have in any situation in a new product. People don't like to read directions. They want to go right and do the thing. So we came up with a one-page cartoon here as to this particular product and how it acts. So comically, we're saying, oh no, deer guard, let's eat somewhere else. So it does shut down the deer buffet that we know that exists out there. It does look like a vine with a small 3/16 inch ribbon. That ribbon can be cut to any size that you want depending upon the size of your plant. It's important, again, to put it at deer browse height and encircle any of the plants that you have depending upon the size. Weave it, encircle it. It will mesh into the plant, but at some point in time, you want to come by and titillate and bring it up and make sure that it's at deer browse height. So the ribbon particularly is used for flowers, for your vegetables, tree trunks, bushes such as a hydrangea, of all different size. You cut to the length. Also, one of the things we found out is it's great for bird feeders. A lot of the deer come up and they suck the seed out of your bird feeder, just dangle a couple strips there, and they stay away. It does not affect the birds at all. The birds will come right by. There's no problem with that. The product is pet safe and environment safe. It's totally organic. The other product that we have is a card, and this is the card. It's plastic, has the same repellent on it. You stick it into your individual pot, you stick it next to an individual flower that you want to save, you stick it into a basket of flowers. There are 12 units here in the Deer Guard cards box with the actual wire holders and the deer repellent cards. This sell for about $27 plus or minus, again, depending upon what the retailer marks it for. It can also be hung from the tree for protecting lower branches that sometimes are eaten by the deer. We do have something else listed here. It's called strips. This is not released to the public yet. We have a little packaging problem that we're trying to work through. But this is the simplest product of all. It's a 12-inch length, 1-inch wide strip that you basically just lay on the plant, and it grows up with the plant. You can crisscross it and allow it to rise with the plant. You can loop it and put it on an individual flower or a daylily or whatever particular thing you would like to use. Or you can connect them to make a very large hoop to lay on a gigantic hosta should you need to protect those. Also included with the packet is a page here, with showing some of the examples how the different products, the cards and the ribbon are applied. In your packet, there is a little individual thing that shows the proven winner, the proven Deer Guard label that was on as an old package of a smaller, it says 100-yard. We've since disbanded with the 100-foot product and gone to 150 yards. But on the back side, it lists the defense plants, not the plants that are ones that are always attacked by the deer, including holly, ornamentals, tulips, geraniums, azaleas, and things like that. So certainly there's a large investment from all of you in all of your yards as to needs to protect things. So fundamentally, you're spending about $25 to give protection to whatever your investment is, and which is typically equal to about one basket of flowers that you buy at any of the retail places. Boyart's carries the product. Boyart's has been very supportive of us in getting a launch. It's very difficult to get distribution on a product, and they have been very helpful in this, as well as Petiti's. All 9 stores, all 9 garden centers carry the product, and Copley Feed and Supply also carries that. We are in talks with being approached by other big box stores now from the standpoint of the success that it has shown to be proven to do the job. Again, not 100%, but pretty close. Place and forget. The rain doesn't affect its effectiveness, and no smell. Easy application. Little tending if you need to raise it up to the deer browse height, and that's the product. Earl, do you want to add anything that I might have missed?
No, good job.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a show of hands of anybody who has used the product? Okay. Anybody want to make an endorsement?
Yeah, in fact, I even brought the box here to show everybody.
You just have to go to any microphone.
Hi, my name is Lila Lair. I live on Sandy Lane. I've lived in this city since 1973, 49 years. Anyway, I used this last year and it really works. I love my flowers, and I don't plant vegetables anymore, but so I haven't really tried it on tomato plants. I wanted to make a comment to you. My hands were very sticky after I placed it all around my flowers. Vaseline works wonderful, and everybody has Vaseline, and it's also a very good product for your skin to remove it, okay? So,
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what I used. But my comment would be, since this works and it's non-lethal and it's safe for the environment, wouldn't it be better for the city, instead of investing on sharpshooters or training people with bow and arrows, and then the cost of removing the carcasses, to give vouchers out for products like this, that we could buy this and use this? That would be my comment. I would like to see vouchers for this, for the city. And by the way, I spend like $300 to $400 on my flowers every year. So this was $35 at Boreas. So $35 is not a big thing for me to spend. So anyway, it does work, and it's great. Thank you so much for inventing it.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions in the back?
Yes, good evening. My name is Cheryl Rohrbach, and I live on Gentry Drive. Been in the city since 1994. No disrespect, but I have plenty of pictures. Bought your product at Boyart's last year, was wrapped all in our hostas, our lilies, anything that we can, and 1 or 2 days later, it was all eaten. And about how you mentioned to mix it up, my husband has a whole garage shelf of multiple different sprays. He's religious. Every single night he is out there spraying. Even when we go on vacation, he pays extra money to the person that waters our plants so that they can do all the spraying. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I know you mentioned earlier there's certain areas in the city that are overpopulated versus others. I'm all for a controlled kill in those certain areas. But yeah, so if you'd like to see the pictures, and thankfully Boyert's, I showed them pictures, took the product back, and they provided my money back. So, but thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comments.
Hi, I'm Diane Supan. I live on Wildwood Court. Thank you for all of your energy you've put into this product and for trying to get help to us. Lo and behold, my husband did buy quite a large amount of it last Mother's Day. I was thrilled because I've tried countless things, many sprays, homemade things, short of just being so aggravated and downtrodden of losing so many dollars worth of plants, trying to obviously go to those deer-resistant plants year after year. I've trying. So I appreciate that. I did use your product. I have a question. What do you consider lasts all season? What is your season? Do you know?
We're doing 3 months. 3 months.
Okay. I don't think it lasted quite 3 months. It was effective, but I did put it like on the clematis, around the lilies, my dwarf Albruta spurs, and about 2 months or so after there was eating going on, mowed down the lilies, of course, that's just salad for them, but I understand that, but they're gorgeous plants. I do want to try to keep them. Anyway, also to the deer population is, of course, the babies are born. It's the mamas that are teaching them to come into my yard. Generation after generation after generation. That is the root of it. The mamas know where to feed. They do know that. I think I'm right on that. You can create all the wonderful products to try to deflect them, but in the end, it's the population that is the problem. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that wants to comment on the product? Okay.
I don't want to look at the wall. Okay, there you go. Hi, Dennis Foy. I live at 961 Shorewood Drive. Last winter, the deer mowed down a hedge of taxus in our yard. We paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 to have them ripped out and to purchase plants at Boyer's to replace them, which we got deer-resistant plants. I don't think there is such a thing, really. At any rate, we also purchased the tape. And I came home, put these plants on the driveway, and before we could even get them into the ground, and I had the deer tape wrapped within these, they were low plants, so I had them wrap the deer tape, and they were eating on the plants. I took the plants back to Boyert's, and they refunded them. They actually let me exchange it for another more deer-resistant plant that the deer haven't eaten yet. So I just wanted to comment that I did not have a success with the product, and I was told I didn't use it right this evening, so for what that's worth, if it's that hard to use and I used it wrong, then shame on me, huh?
Thank you. The two things that do occur with the plant is that sometimes there's some stinginess associated with putting it on, so there's a large bush, and you put on 6 inches of product, it's not going to work. The other part is it's put on the ground. It's not a ground-based plant. It's to be, it depends. It's to be wrapped on the plant itself. As I say, it works, and there are some failures. I would like to show a video here. It takes 1 minute of your time if we could. If Jerry could start that video, this is results that have been recorded. The Deer Guard product is on all of these photos. Hostas there, stalks being eaten in the foreground. Similar, different bed of hostas. Next to each other. Daylilies, buds visible on the one on the left, eaten on the right. For some reason on the YouTube, I know this thing comes up and said, this is not a video, but I don't know how that works. Roses, they were totally eaten down. This was put on, and they totally came back. But that's it. Thank you for your attention. Any other questions?
I think we're good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Earl, Dennis, thank you. Yep. Okay, we have a couple other things before we have public comment, and the first thing is we have an ordinance that was put in committee, might be a year and a half ago, might be two, at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, which was an ordinance on feeding, prohibiting feeding animals, wild animals in town. As I mentioned at the last meeting, that ordinance went to council, came out of committee, out of 2 committee meetings, went to city council, and then ended up being pulled because the ordinance included cats and dogs, which are not wild. In the meantime, we had issues, COVID, and we haven't brought it back. In discussion with people, including from the Department of Natural Resources, and a plan I'm going to explain to you in a minute, they felt that having a prohibition about feeding wild animals was an integral part of a deterrence, simply because of the attraction. A lot of what we've heard at the last meeting, a lot of what we've heard tonight, a lot of the comments that were noted on the survey, they were really about the nuisance issues, the plant issues, the deer in your yard, the eating plants that you paid for. And the concern is that if your neighbor is feeding deer, then that attracts them to your area. Actually, I think the idea of this may have originated with Councilman Rose. We originally talked about this a number of years back, I think. Does that sound fair?
Me and Mr. Coyne.
Yeah. So, worked with the law director with this ordinance to make sure that it would be effective as a backstop for issues that are obviously creating a nuisance on someone's property. It's written so that it is not an overburdensome to anybody. You are someone from the city would meet with you if there's an issue, would talk to you, and then beyond that there are some consequences, but they start out fairly friendly, marginal, so that you understand that if you are attracting deer to your yard and it's causing a neighbor or someone down the street a problem, we want to deal with that. I will read the ordinance to you so that you are familiar with it, and then my intention tonight is that this committee will, if there's any discussion on the committee, and we will move this then, if it gets a motion a second, we can move this then up to council so we can address this portion of the problem. It says, the ordinance says this, it says, the proposed ordinance says, no person shall purposely or knowingly provide food for deer, geese, ducks, raccoons, fowl, or other wild animals, wildlife, or stray animals, except as otherwise specifically authorized and designated in marked public areas where such feeding Number 1, causes or contributes to damage of the property of another or creates a public or private nuisance. This section does not apply to fishing, feeding of animals owned by that person, or to songbirds fed from a stationary and off-ground hanging bird feeder. This section shall not apply to a law enforcement officer, game officer, or conservation officer enforcing the laws of the state of Ohio, or any local ordinances, nor anyone officially authorized by the city to engage in an animal control program, including without limitation a feral cat trap, neuter, vaccinate, return program, or similar programs. The city may initiate a civil action in court of common pleas for injunction and other relief for any violation of this section. Whoever violates this section is guilty of a minor misdemeanor for a first offense and a misdemeanor of the 4th degree for each subsequent offense. A separate offense shall be deemed committed on each day or during which a violation of this section occurs. So, in just simple language, if it's a real problem, this is a way to address it and hopefully mitigate some of those issues on the spot. One that comes to mind, so that you have an understanding of the severity of some of them, is there was a street in town where somebody hung a basket of corn from a tree in a tree lawn on the street. And the deer then came and on the street and ate the corn off the tree lawn, blocking the road. That would be considered a nuisance, right? That would be a nuisance. So it's important in a lot of things that we do that it's like a backstop, so that we have a way to deal with issues that are overwhelmingly problematic. So, Councilman Rose, Councilman Hazeltine, any questions or discussion? Somebody.
I think this has been discussed enough. I like the new wording with the removal of the dogs and cats, and I move to move this on to finance for full discussion and a vote.
I second that motion.
Okay, there's been a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. This ordinance will then will go up to council for consideration. Not sure which meeting it'll be, if it'll be the next meeting or the one after. I think we're too late for the next meeting, but I'm not sure. Kathy, do you know when this will go to council? Okay, it'll go to finance, right? Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions on the ordinance that we just passed? Yes.
Say I have a problem with you, and I report you. Is that anonymous, or do I have to give, or should I give my name? My opinion is the person who's reporting should have to give their name as public record.
Okay, I'll have to ask the police chief. When we did this ordinance, we considered a whole host of approaches, and we tried to make it, we tried to work this ordinance out so that it would not pit a neighbor against a neighbor or become vindictive, where you film somebody. And so I'm going to refer to the police chief on the question that you just had, but thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I can tell you that anytime anyone calls the police to report any issue, they have the option to report that anonymously. I can also tell you that our enforcement of this ordinance, if it is to pass, is to start with an educational campaign rather than citations right off the bat. So you could expect a police officer to come to the residence and address that situation with speaking with the offending person, trying to get them to comply with the ordinance. And if it escalates from there or continues from there, then enforcement action would be taken.
Did you have a further question?
Yeah, I just think if someone is that adamant about doing something, they should be adamant about putting their name forward. Not just calling on a neighbor. Some people do it vindictively.
It would be important for us to be able to file a criminal charge to have a complaining witness, so that we can prove that charge in court. Without that, it would be very difficult to convict somebody of that crime.
The fact of the matter is we can't compel them to give us their name and address. If the officers are able to put together a case with or without their name, we'll do that. If we can't, we can't. as the chief said, it's much easier instead of the officer just witnessing something, somebody get up and raise their hand and explain to the judge the damage they're reporting and how long it's been going on and how detrimental it is. The officer obviously can't testify to those things. He can testify to what he sees at the time he's called out, but he can't testify to the history and how long it's been going on, and et cetera, et cetera. So the chief is absolutely right in that the name is helpful, but I can tell you from the dispatch perspective, there are a number of people that call and do not want to give us their name because they don't want some recourse later. And we can't say we're not going to investigate what you're reporting without your name. We just simply won't.
I get that, but if they don't, not willing to give their name, then it, it falls back, and it's an anybody can call in anybody situation,
Well, we deal with that day in and day out. I mean, over 40 years, I've seen that a few times.
Yeah.
It's always good when you're just lucky enough that you live in a community where your mayor served as the police chief, right? We have a great depth of knowledge here for most every question I think that you would have in any regard there. So let me just continue on with beyond the ordinance that we just passed, which is a critical part of dealing with what we have as issues that we can give exact numbers to and exact locations to, as well as this great deal of anecdotal information that we have gotten from folks that came to the last meeting, things we've heard over time, things we have heard for years at neighborhood meetings. And I want to make this clear so that everybody understands the idea of killing, of culling the deer. If in fact we are right, there are approximately 600 deer in town, give or take. If we cull the deer, you would eliminate 200 deer. That would leave 400 deer. And when you look at some of the cities that I have looked at in the past couple of weeks since the last meeting that have had culling programs, if you think of, they're in Cuyahoga County, they are surrounded by other cities. They're heavily populated, heavily trafficked. We are not Fortress Medina. We are not surrounded, by other tens of thousands of built places. We have areas, if you drive west of town, if you drive south of town, that in effect are rural. So if you can consider the logic of what I'm saying, if we have 600 deer and we take 200 away, there will still be 400 right now. And when you look at the reproduction rate after the elimination, the female deer who had one baby has more food and in likelihood will have more. If you look at the proximity to the rural areas of this community where deer come in and out, once there's more food because there's only 400 deer, more deer will come in. And when I have looked at the communities that are doing culling, the immediate impact is there is less deer. But if you look at it year by year, those deer they come back, and so you end up again with 600 deer, which means you have to cull 200 deer again. So it isn't this is not a one-year process. This would be an every year process. But part of what I'm explaining is 400 deer in town, 5 deer in your neighborhood, 1 deer in your yard is still going to eat that hosta if the hosta's there, that plant that they want to eat. And so my consideration of this, while you may or may not agree with it, is that there were 2 parts to the last meeting discussion that we got from the Department of Natural Resources. One is that they have an option to immediately reduce the herd that we could get if they approve it, and that is to cull. There is no other option to do that. For over 2 decades, there has been research and work on how to neuter deer by targeting them with darts, but none of those things are approved other than as pilot programs done with grant funds. So that option from ODNR, that is the one immediate option. You could cull the deer, maybe about 200. But the other part of what we learned from ODNR at the last meeting was that their policy, their plans are that you exhaust every other avenue and before you go to culling. So my sense of when you deal with an issue that is both, somebody said to me earlier today, they said, I bet you're not looking forward to this meeting because it's going to be controversial. I don't really see it as controversial. I just see that we are looking at things differently. And as I said in the beginning, we generally have enough discussion information that we can finally come together in some way to make things work for everyone the best we can. So my sense is, when we put together the information on the website, most people in town have probably never looked at the website. It is startling to me to think that we had 15 people contact the city officially through the Parks Department, but we had 1,200 people respond to the survey. So we have all this anecdotal information, but only that handful of people actually contacted us. So it's important to me that we don't just hear and list the complaints, but that we find a way to deal with those, and how can we do it? And I want to make sure that we exhaust everything prior to saying, let's do the culling. And my plan is this. If we put together a more robust program of deer management that provides education, that recognizes where deer are hit in traffic, what are the issues in what neighborhoods and where do they occur? I turned in a request today for $8,500 to buy Deer Guard deer spray. A lot of issues, if you really care about an issue, it costs money. You put money into it. And if you look at what the city does, we put money into issues that we really care about. Think about the lighting at Christmas time. We care about that. It's good for economic development. Put money into it. I put money in to buy 2 flashing signs for deer that say deer crossing, solar-powered signs. There are 3 areas in particular where deer are hit. Now, deer hitting the cars is not the huge issue that we've been dealing with because there has only been 15, but I did learn from talking to the service director and information planning director that there's a lot of other deer get hit, but people just don't report them. They just move along for whatever reason. And the number was staggering to me. I think I didn't count, I looked at it, but it looked like it was at least over 50 deer that get hit, and then people just drive away. Now, to me, I didn't know that that was occurring. So what I'm proposing is that we put some thought and some funding and put together a muscular education program, a phone number that is dedicated so that if you have an issue, you can call. Because on the website now, what we had was if you have an issue in your yard, you could call the city, and we would send an employee out to take a look at what you have and try to find solutions for you right there in your yard. But we don't get those kind of calls. And I think it's our failing that we have not been proactive in trying to deal with the issue. Take that time to exhaust these possibilities with a very realistic, fact-driven plan that includes everything you can think of that would make it possible to coexist and deal with your problem to the degree we can. And then we would have tracked the information, we'd have exact numbers, we'd know exactly where it happens, exactly what it is, and we can quantify it. And we would be able to look at that and say, this is working, or we could look at it and say, you know what, this is a great program, and it may be helping, but it is not working for too many people. And then we may have to rethink and maybe do what South Euclid did. Have a good, solid program of education and mitigation, but have a culling coincide along with it in order to have both parts of the program. But it's important to understand that if we cull the deer, they will come back, because 200 out of 600, if you think of it, isn't going to make a whole lot of difference, because they will come back again, and then we have to do it next year and next year and next year. And I don't know what you think, but to me, if there is a way for us to allow nature, in some sense, to exist in our community, it speaks to a value that maybe matters, like all the other great things that we've done as a community. And if we can't make it work, because we have to make things work right for you because you live here, and we have heard the issues, and we have not acted, and so now we do need to act. So given that space to try a better program of management, and if it doesn't work, we'll know why it's not working, and that we have to go further, and then we would have to implement another program. That was the recommendation from ODNR. Calling could be approved because I don't know how they will interpret the results, but the survey was surprisingly, in some aspects, I mean, it was overwhelmingly participated in when you think about a lot of things that we do. But I think that we can put together a program that may very well help, and we can include ODNR in constructing the program, the information that we have from the city administration, and see what we can put together. And if we can do that, we can play it out, and if it doesn't work, then we have to take the next step, but we will have done what the recommendation says. And so I have scheduled a special legislation meeting for the 28th of June, where we will have that plan, we would have that plan completed, have another public meeting and a discussion about the plan, get more input, and then see if that's what we would go forward with, if we get support from council and the administration. And we would satisfy, I think, the need so that if we do have to go to calling, we can clearly justify it. The most difficult thing I think we deal with here is when there are two solid different thoughts that people have. If we just go ahead with one, the other people will never come along. But if we can try to work together at a plan, we may be able to include more of the community and have more cooperation and benefit all of us together. That should always be our goal, to get everybody working together to the degree that we can. So that is my plan. And the next meeting will be on the 28th of June, which I believe is a Tuesday. So I will open the floor for public discussion for a bit, and then council people will have an opportunity to give some input to while we're still here. So if somebody, I'm just going to, if you raise your hand, I'm going to call on you. If you just want to start in the front, I'm going to move all the way back. And really need to use the microphone maybe in the back, and just give your name and your address, and if we could, because of the timing, the time, and there is a lot of folks here that may want to talk, kind of stay on point, and thank you.
My name is Sandy Hinkle. I live at 301 East Friendship, and I've been a Medina resident for 40 years now. I said this at the last meeting 40 years ago when we drive down Route 18, which was all woods, never saw a deer. If you saw it, it was a rare occasion. So now we're talking about this phenomena that's happened. I still believe we've taken away their habitat. I understand the guy from the state of Ohio disagreed with that. I just want to, I'm going to reiterate what Bill said, because that's everything I had written down before I came in to this meeting tonight, Bill. I find it interesting that this has been an issue from 2013, and we're just now talking about it, and then we're going to the extreme of culling. And I just think that before we do that as a first step, we should definitely think about what can we do as a preventative step. I believe in education. I believe we have OSU here, who is a huge asset to us as a community. We do utility bills, and people can get correspondence. The greatest number of people can get correspondence that way to educate about how to manage the deer in your yard, what kind of plants to plant, and things like that. I also think that Armstrong would be very willing to help us out in ways of, introducing people to ways that they can take care of this problem if it's a problem for them. I wondered if the city would consider grant writing to, as Bill said, purchase products and then be able to provide them at a cheaper cost to our residents. If people knew that they could come to City Hall and get a deer resist kit for a minimal cost, I'm wondering how many people would take advantage of that. The one thing I do want to say and stress on is because I live right here in town, I travel all the main routes. Never once have I seen a sign that says deer crossing. Never once. And I will tell you, I go up Reagan Parkway an awful lot, and that seems to be in the middle of the day. Now, my philosophy is you see one, there's more coming. I can't tell you how many people, and I believe the speed limit's 25. Can't tell you how many people are doing 35, and as soon as the one runs, they hit it. Well, I'm just waiting for for the rest of the pack to come out. So I think that that's another preventative measure that we could take, and not just 2 signs. I think there's probably plenty of areas that those signs should be up and flashing so that when people are driving, they're more aware that this is a highly populated area for them to be accident prone in. And that's just one of the things we don't do. I just wanted to mention, I know at the last meeting it was talked about giving, if we call, you give that meat to the food pantries, and being as that's something that I did in my past life, I can tell you that somebody's going to have to pay for the processing fee. You cannot just give it to a pantry and say, here you go. So that's an expense that if we called, and I know that's a way of winning people over, but I don't think that that's the best approach, calling first. I think we need to be preventative first. And that's something from 2013 that we haven't done so far. So I think it's a great opportunity for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you. Yeah, Mayor.
Jansen has a list of where we have the signs posted, including Reagan Parkway.
We have a total of 8 deer crossing signs. There's 2 on South Court Street, 7 and 800 block, 700 block Wadsworth Road, 900 block East Washington, 2 on East Reagan Parkway, and 2 on Guilford Boulevard.
That's not the flashing,
I'm Michelle Nichols. I live at 800 South Court Street. I've lived there for 12 years. My husband's been there for 50. I believe we're one of the largest residential in the city. I do have many deer in my yard. I'm very happy to have them there. I do spray. I have a lot of perennials and things. And I agree with what Bill Lamb is saying. Educate us. Try something before we do the culling. My son has been hunting since he was 15 years old. He's 41 years old now. He hunts in southern Ohio. Last year, he was asked by a friend to come to their property in Medina County and hunt, and he's a bow hunter. He set up his tree stand, and he sat there and sat there and sat there, and lo and behold, a deer came out, and he did shoot it. And he's a pretty good shot and has killed many deer to prove that. The problem with that is when you bow hunt, the deer can run. All of us live in very close proximities to these parks where this hunting would be done. The deer he shot ran. It ran into a development. It ran up to a house, not the person he was hunting for, and proceeded to drop on their concrete driveway and bleed all over the driveway. The woman came out hysterical, followed by her 3 children, hysterical, at this deer. There's got to be something we can do before we resort to these means. It's too disturbing to a lot of people to witness this. I had to witness a small fawn being clipped by a car on our street this past year. It ran down my driveway, which is quite long, and dropped dead right in my yard. And I did take it to the woods and bury it and said a few kind words, but it's upsetting to see. So I say we go with Bill Lamb's idea of trying something else first. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Go.
I'm going to say a couple short things. My name is Shirley Walker, 426 South Broadway Street, Medina. The one thing I want to say is we live in Medina. Medina is great. Medina is designer. Medina is fantastic. These deer don't want the weeds. They want designer. They want your hosta. They want your tulips. They want whatever they can get. That is fantastic. I live close to a park. Yeah, I have the deer coming through. They're not eating my plants. They're not eating my rose bushes. They're not eating my hydrangeas. I have many, many wildflowers in my yard. Some planted on purpose, some I just let grow. The tornado a couple years ago took out a lot, but if you walk through my backyard, there's loads of wildflowers. Several years back, I had a special animal that I had to get special requests to take care of. The city required a 6-foot fence. He doesn't need a 6-foot fence, he needed a 3-foot, but I put up a 6-foot fence. When he passed, as I said it would in a few years, I left the fence there. I have a garden in my yard for the first time in my life. I have a fence. And you know what? It's like a clear fence, a wire fence. Nobody can see it really. I have vegetables. I had a great garden last year and the year before. And what I'm saying is, put up a fence. Maybe next city council person, have somebody here to show the nice fences that could go up, that can protect your plants. You know, you don't want a big fence, well, get something else that's kind of neat and kind of nice. And I guess that's most important, you know. They want to eat your plants. They're not going to eat them if you put a fence up. Some kind of fence. Thank you. And Mr. Lamb, I do agree with that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. We are going to go front to back, and keep in mind that I believe, just raise your hand if you do want, raise your hand for me if you do want to talk. Okay, so I know we've got enough time. I'm sure we have enough time, so just want to keep in mind that there are other folks that want to talk as well. So go ahead, thank you.
All right, Tanya Rogers again. I live over on West Liberty Street over by Root Company. Just a real quick question. What is your proposed timeline for your educational program?
My timeline is I have blocked out the ideas that I have gleaned from everything else that I've read, because I know this is an issue that matters. So my timeline is, it's mostly a lot of the outline of it is done, and I expect that way prior to the 28th meeting it will be complete, with the help of a number of other people that can give me input that either work for the city or work for the state of Ohio, with the same plan in mind, you know, to see how you can track and exactly discern what each of these issues is, how we can deal with issues, how we can educate, how we can mitigate the traffic issues, and everything else that this entails. I have that outlined, and I will get that filled in long before the meeting, and it will be public. And that way, when the public comes, they can see it, and we can make a decision. Thanks for your question. Appreciate it. Mr. Marquardt.
Yes, my name is Michael Marquardt again. I just want to reiterate, I don't know why we do these surveys, and we have a very strong survey that comes about what is needed in this town. 55 of the 88 that were on this survey had contacted City Hall. So for you to say that we do not contact City Hall, 55 out of 88 people from Forest Meadows had contacted City Hall. 14 of them had talked to their councilman, and they all know that. Our two councilmen both know that we've been coming to them and talking to them. We're not deer haters. We love the deer. I used to have beautiful blue hosta years ago. I've had hosta for about 15 years now. I've been a citizen here for 40 years. We're not deer haters. We want them managed. We've been wanting them managed since 2013, when council at that point talked about culling. We just want them managed. We don't want them killed. We want them managed. And yes, and I believe, and I'd like to ask a question of the parks. I thought outside of the city limits that the parks do have open hunting and licensing. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, you can hunt in the townships unless they have ordinance that would restrict that. So they are managed through hunting through the Ohio Division of Wildlife. You just have to have a hunting license, as well as the Medina County Park District also manages their deer through a lottery program.
Okay, so the city also has that? No?
No.
So the deer that Councilman Lamb talked about that are coming back in really shouldn't be coming in because those are managed, aren't they? Outside of the city limits?
They are managed, but they do travel.
Sure, of course they do. So they are coming back in, which we would expect that they do. On a personal note, not from my notes here, I hope we don't use $8,500 of taxpayers' money, and I'm sorry, sir, to do something like that. I hope the city council really thinks about that. We are concerned. Management is what needs to be done. We're kicking it down the can again since 2013. Thank you very much for hearing me. I appreciate it.
Happy to get your comments. Let me just clarify, though, that I didn't say that nobody contacted anybody at City Hall directly. What I said was through the process that we have online, which is a place that it could be specifically dealt with, is where you could see the program. We got almost nobody contacting. And if you look at the numbers even that you have, and you compare those to the number of people who responded to the survey, and the Parks Director showed the chart, very few people have ever contacted the city comparatively. The majority said they had not, but we do talk about the issue. And I wholly agree with you that we need to manage the issue, and we have never directly confronted that problem. We have talked it, and we have listened about it. And we have heard people say these issues, both who want the deer in their yard, that take pictures of them, and they love them, and the folks that just do not want them, and they want to deal with it. So my approach is that we take a look at a robust program to ensure we have done everything we can do, and we're going to do that now. I mean, June is not far away, and I promise you this, we will be able to establish whether it works or it doesn't work, and then we will make a determination of what to do next. I have no intention of letting this issue go. That's a promise. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Bob Krulik, 857 Westwood Drive. My property is on the west side, or I'm sorry, is the east side of, the south side of Reagan Parkway. In this stretch of property of about 10 houses, there are 8 of them that have contiguous fences, and mine is the last in that 8, and then there's an opening. And so there is a constant stream of deer that come through the property between mine and my neighbors. We've stopped doing flowers. The guy next to me has done a raised bed surrounded by wire screen, but it's purely a safety issue. I'm not here to talk about flowers. We've given up that idea, and there's nothing you can do about that. These deer repellents, deer resistant, I agree, they're not working. Safety is my issue. I hit a deer 4 years ago. I've hit 4 deer in my life. I travel a lot. I did not report it to the police department. I didn't want to burden them with extra work. Did not know that was on the table that you needed that. I went through my insurance company. I would assume that you would survey insurance companies as well to determine what kind of damage was done and how much economic impact it was. Again, I would go back that there is a disincentive in economic terms of having these deer in our neighborhood. There is no economic value. There is an economic cost to having these deer, and there is a safety cost to having these deer. So my only question then is, when you talk about ODNR coming up with the 400, of the 600 that is estimated to be the population, are you going to have a further discussion regarding this 400 number? It doesn't make sense to me that you would cull the deer to 400 and then have this as a recurring occurrence or a recurrence every 2 years. That number should be reduced so that you're not doing this that often. So how do you guys respond to that?
The number that we got from the Parks Department through ODNR was that with that number, it would probably be, that would be about, and Jensen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we had this discussion I think today, that would probably be about the number that would be the initial call.
I mean, what's that based on?
To answer your question, Bill and I did have a brief phone call today where we talked about what he had asked me what would be the number of deer that should be called. And I said that we would have to further investigate that with the ODNR, look at the complaints, look at the deer vehicle accidents. We have to submit a number to them through a management plan that we don't have for it to be approved by the state. And it's a little premature to say that. That I would say 200 is a very rough number. It's nothing that is in stone or anything like that. I am not a natural resource expert. I'm not a wildlife biologist. I've just been involved with this and listening to people's concerns and dealing with managing deer on their property since the beginning of 2016. But I have contact with the resources that we need to talk to should we develop a management plan and establish that number.
Jensen, at the last meeting, Jeff said somewhere in the area of 10 deer per square mile would be recommended for an urban area. Okay, so based on that, we need to get down to about 120 deer, based on just that number he gave us, to make this manageable for the city.
Big difference. Okay, and I would suggest that, again, you quoted 15 accidents a year. Bill, you quoted 50. Somebody quoted 50 accidents.
No, 15. I said there were 50 deer that were killed that we have no report on because people hit the deer and drove away.
Okay, that's not an accident?
It's not a reportable accident through the police department.
I understand what you're saying. No, you're wordsmithing.
But we do have a record because those deer are cleaned up by the service department.
Mine did not. I hit a deer. I did not report it. I think I'm in the majority of people. I reported it to my insurance company. I did not call the police department to come out. The deer ran away. That didn't happen? Wouldn't you put a minimum number on the safety and the accidents of these things that occurred rather than a maximum?
I didn't put any number on it. Actually, I just used the resources that we have.
But those resources are underreported. Would you agree with that statement?
They could be underreported, but
they would be underreported.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay, but you wouldn't say they would be. You wouldn't say that's a statement. That's a fact.
I am trying to deal with information, and that was why I talked about developing a plan where we have substantial, accurate information, which you are right now indicating that we don't.
Correct.
Because we use the reporting systems that we have, and in order to take care of it, to address an issue effectively, we need to have the details and specific actual facts to decide what to do. Secondly, the speed limits inside town, I think I looked at every report that we had. Generally, there is no human injury because where many of these occurred, you are not driving very fast.
True, I agree with that.
As upsetting as it is, because I've hit 2 deer in my lifetime, as upsetting and awful as it is, you generally are not going to get injured if you're going 25 or 30 miles an hour. I mean, because we do have those police reports that I think show that, right, Chief?
Yes.
Thank you.
So my final question is, you say that you don't have that information. What is the response and how will you get that information? Will you be surveying insurance companies? Is there no answer to that?
No, I think there is an answer. I think it's what we need to work through, and that's what I want the time to do so that we can make sure that we have accurate information.
Okay, thank you.
You are quite welcome, and thank you for your questions. I don't know.
In the interest of time, if you want to speak, go up and get behind Eric. Erica is up there. She would like to speak now. If just go get in line, and we'll just go that way, please. Okay. So we can speed this up.
Are you interested in speeding this up?
Yes, I am.
I think it's important that we give everybody the opportunity to talk. We've got a little bit of time here. We're good. I think everybody's moving along nicely. Erica, thank you.
Thank you. Erica Graffine, 626 Cedar Street. And thanks for taking the time to listen to us, but I think that you are missing a huge point. You can educate me all you want, but there's too many deer. We've got to do something now. And you can educate, and I bought the white tape, and I heard it works, I heard it didn't work, but we have to get rid of some of the deer. And I'm thankful that the number is going to be, looks like, when you do all the math and the statistics, it's going to be greater than 200. And I'm sorry for everybody that doesn't want to do this, but my guess is that anyone who doesn't want to do this is not living with the destruction and the loss of property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Erica. Appreciate it. Teresa?
Hello, my name is Teresa Knox. I reside at 1107 Gentry Drive. I'm here tonight because our exploding regional deer population requires some deer management efforts. The legislation prohibiting feeding of the wild deer and wild animals, while the intent is good, I feel like it's not enough. The deer population needs to be thinned. I would like to see the mayor, council, and administration work in conjunction with the ODNR for a municipal deer control permit. I've lived in my current home for close to 30 years now. And over those 30 years, it has progressively gotten worse. We've tried to do many of the non-lethal things to try and coexist with the deer repellent, all that stuff, the ribbon, the sheets. I personally didn't use the ribbon or sheets, but some of my neighbors did and did not have success with it. We've fenced half of our backyard to also keep our dogs in, but to keep the deer out. We've had a garden every year since we've been here with a 6-foot plus foot fence, and they still jump it. They've cleared out our garden in one night. So we've tried all kinds of different things to keep them at bay, but it doesn't work. We've purchased tree trunk protectors for so that the deer wouldn't ruin any of our trees. I have a memory tree that we got when my father passed away, and it was supposed to be deer-resistant tree. It's not deer-resistant. They eat it. We have a neighbor on one side that actually put up ribbon on top of their 5-foot fence, double row of ribbon to keep them out. They still jump that. So I don't know what it is about our neighborhood, but they have some good springs. And there's quite a few of our neighbors that are here tonight, and they could speak about it also. We went from a large garden to small box gardens so that they can't jump in them. We've tried a lot of things. We have 2 little box gardens outside of the fenced area and 2 on the inside of the fenced area. And we're trying that for the first time this year versus a big garden where they just jump in and eat everything. Let me see. And I just wanted to speak on the Lyme disease too with the ticks. I feel like if the deer are close, so are the ticks. And it could be a real problem. In the end, we are dealing with 60 deer per square mile. That's kind of high. That's really high. And it's too much not to be doing something about it. I feel like maybe we should try doing something first with the culling and then do the education to keep it maintained or at a certain level. And that's pretty much all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Brighton, and I'm one of Teresa's neighbors. I'm at 1119 Gentry Drive, and I just want to speak about the mitigation education efforts. I've been dealing with this problem for probably about 10 years. I'm pretty proactive. I actually have deer-resistant landscape hollies, barberry, japonicas, Korean boxwoods, thinking that I would be able to keep them away, and however, that is not the case. Over the years, I have used multiple products, speaking with Norton, Dayton Nursery, Boyert's, helping for them to help me to understand how to keep these away. I've tried Deer Stopper, Liquid Fence, Coyote Urine, Cayenne Pepper, Repellzol, a bunch of different things, and I still have a problem. I've even done fencing around my hollies, which are known to be bitter and prickly, so they're supposed to be really deer resistant. I put a huge barrier, burlap, and deer netting over. About 3 years ago, half of my holly was eaten because they were able to find an opening. So this year I ratcheted down, got more cable ties, everything. I thought I was good to go. However, in February, I discovered that there was a little hole that a deer was able to get his head through and eat a large portion of my holly. And I know my councilwoman, I sent her a photo of that, so she has proof that, it happened. I'm not sure what to do. I'm open to other strategies, but I really think we need to try something to manage, and I believe in culling. Huge animal lover. But I also know that these are very destructive. I'm spending probably about several $100s a summer to manage, and I don't even think I'm doing a good job of managing. To speak about the Lyme disease, I'm also dealing with not only the deer eating, but also the deer leaving their business in the yard. And there was one fall where I was actually having 5 piles show up per day. So while I was cleaning up for my dog, I was cleaning up for my deer. And I'm not sure what type of diseases they have, but having animals, I'm just trying to keep my pets safe as well. So I hope you'll really consider using culling. I think for most of us on Gentry, we've tried a lot of different mitigation strategies, and unfortunately, they just have not been successful. And in the past, I have spoken to my councilman. It was Mark Holisar, and that kind of fell on deaf ears. So I did bring it up, and I just thought it was probably going to fall on deaf ears before, so I'm glad we're having this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks for letting me speak. My name's Lila Richardson. I'm at 1078 Alexandria Lane. Who am I and why have I asked for time to speak tonight? I'm just a Medina resident that believes the following. I believe we should coexist with animals in nature. I believe we have a responsibility to teach our children and model for the younger generation that just because an animal is a nuisance, we shouldn't end its life because it's easier or simpler than just trying to coexist. I believe the implementation of a killing program will not be a one-time solution or fix. It will not fix the problem. Deer will continue to come into the area. They will continue to travel, just like Councilman Lamb said, from outlying areas and this will keep happening year after year after year because we are growing, we are building on their land. So as we're building and crouching on their space, they're of course going to invade our space, right? We need to coexist together. I believe in a world where we would be a better society if we could be kind, compassionate, compromise, and coexist. Coexisting with a deer is the option that makes the most sense to me. Exhausting all options to live peacefully should be our compromise, and it should be the compromise we work for today. I realize I am one person with my passion and my beliefs. I thought today I would give you some quotes from a range of famous leaders who perhaps have more credibility or clout than I may have. Albert Einstein, obviously more intelligent than me, said, "Our talk must be to free ourselves from the prison of life by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all life creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." I'm just going to repeat a portion of that. We need to widen our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. If you believe in a higher being and you follow the Bible, Exodus says that the 10 Commandments remind us we are supposed to treat animals with respect and care. If you believe in military strong leaders, Winston Churchill says, the United States can always be relied upon to do the right thing, having first exhausted all possible alternatives. Now, I've quoted some different people. I could have quoted Jane Goodall, Steve Irwin, or PETA today to really nail home some of my points about animal rights, but I didn't do that. I quoted people that I believe this wide range of folks here tonight maybe respect or maybe listen to. So keeping that in mind, the representative from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, as well as all of their printed materials, reference that alternative measures should be tried before implementing a culling program. Looking what has been done thus far, I feel as though we as a community and as a city and as individuals have not exhausted all possibilities. I strongly request that we implement alternative solutions before considering slaughtering the deer. Councilman Bear Lamb referenced a few ideas, as did the Parks Director. So I'd just like to briefly highlight a few of those. First of all, the city website is out there. I searched for 20 to 30 minutes looking for what we had available to help with the deer. I couldn't find it. I finally, after 30 minutes, I found it. So a quick solution to that would be, there's a little magnifying glass that allows you to search on our city website. If you could just change that when you type in deer to pull up what our resources are, I think that would be much more accessible to our population. The Parks Director, I'm sorry, Jen, I forget your name. You had mentioned that there's been some mailings done. I'm the only person in my house, I've lived there 20 years, that received the mail. I don't remember ever seeing anything in our water bill. Not saying it's not done, but maybe it's time to do that again, especially if that was done back in 2013. I'm not sure. Deer Guard, that was a fabulous presentation. I appreciate all the information you provided. It is something I haven't tried. I'm definitely going to give it a try. I do think that maybe instead of paying for sharpshooters and hunters to come into the city to remove deer carcass, maybe we could start with some type of donation from the city to provide Deer Guard and sprays to individuals. Councilman Lamb talked about a plan for monitoring. I'd love to see a plan like this that contains components of recording the complaint from a citizen, documenting the actions that's taken not only by that individual, but also by the city to help, and then the results. Any plan should be time-specific and measurable, and so maybe have a duration of time that this plan should go through and evaluate the success rate of the options that have been tried. Traffic signals, maybe I'm just not an aware driver. I didn't realize we had so many of them out there. So I think that more signals are great. You guys have heard me talk in the past about safety. That's always a concern of mine. So more traffic signs for the deers, I think would be great. The do not feed ordinance, I'm not going to beat that because it looks like that's getting passed through. And then lastly, I think birth control, the DART program, you dart a deer with PZP. It's a 3-year birth control option for a deer, something that we could apply for grants and look to do. So I just rattled off 6 different options. We have not tried or communicated, in my opinion, effectively. What I'm asking is that we agree as a community that we have not exhausted all options to peacefully coexist. And if you think we have agreed to coexist or we've tried all of these options, can I remind you of a quote from Thomas Edison? When you have exhausted all possibilities, remember this, you haven't. My request today is that we try some alternative ways of working together before killing the deer who cannot defend themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joyce Kiefer. I live at 1057 Brandywine Drive, and I've been a Medina resident for 34 years. We see in this government that the people that complain the most always seem to get the way they want. I don't think the majority of the people ever call City Hall or complain because they just want to live their lives on their own private property and do what they feel is right. I am fortunate enough to live with a green area behind my home, and I love to watch the animals. That's one of the reasons why I decided to live there. I was born on a dairy farm, and I've learned that when you care for animals and you provide things for them, that they will be your friends. And I know they're a problem, but when you have a problem and you go out and you see somebody tell your kids, oh, those darn deer eat my flowers again, why not say, look, let's look for the deer. Let's watch them. Let's see what God's creatures have created. But no, we want always an easy solution to every problem. And I know there's deer deaths in the city, but drive out of the city and you're going to have the same problem. I think that there should be some way that the city could come up with the natural resources to have some sort of reproduction food given to the deer so that they wouldn't reproduce. And I think that there could be deer stations set up so that this would happen. And we wouldn't have to cull the adults because the new ones wouldn't be coming. It's just the way people should respond to what they feel is right. And I don't think that the people that feel this way are the ones that are coming into the meetings and calling and complaining. So that's what I write, and that's what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to, there's a few more people I know that want to speak. I'm going to wrap the meeting up about 7:30. It'll be a 2-hour meeting. So is everybody back? Is everybody up? Is there some speakers? Okay, we've got 2 more people to speak then. Oh, we've got 3 more people to speak, and then we're going to wrap the meeting up. So,
You got a lot.
okay.
Okay, you ready?
And then I get to speak too.
So if you, again, appreciate everybody's comment, but if we could kind of condense it down or distill it down, maybe a little bit condensed, so we can get through everybody, and then we're going to have a discussion up here. Okay, Dolly, go ahead.
Okay. Dolly Yeller, 599 Berkshire Drive. And I am one of the people that have called the city, and I don't really like to call and complain. And Jansen did come out. One of the bucks had rubbed whatever was on their antlers, ruined a tree. In fact, he had told me that if it was a city tree, he would have taken it out and replanted the tree, but told me that he would suggest leaving it up since it's a residential tree. I haven't planted anything for years, at least 3 years before I had like a flower garden and stuff. So after that, I was just like, I haven't planted anything. Anything that has come up as a perennial has gotten eaten right away. But other than that, haven't planted anything, and now I'm having problems with things being busted up. Even if they don't eat something, they're busting things up. Or if I do have some bushes that I've had sprayed, had those little stick things that have the green things on top that have a scent, have those all over these bushes, and they still step on them, even if they don't eat them. So if they're not eating stuff, they're breaking it. So I know you'll say I live by a park, but I've been in the house for 32 years, lived in Medina for over 60, and the deer have changed. So it's not just that anything should be let go, because I feel like I've been coming to meetings for years, for decades, even before you were on council, and I just feel like it's been a delay, and that I still feel like you're trying to delay it right now. Because I mean, just because people haven't said anything to City Hall doesn't mean that they don't have the feelings that might be feeling the same as me. How many times am I going to say something to somebody to get something done? I don't like to complain, and I guess I do. I've written letters to the editor. I've gotten threatening letters I had to report to the police because they were threatening. And it's ridiculous. People will, send threatening letters to people, to humans, but then they would talk about, not killing animals. And somebody spoke at the last meeting about how she had an exterminator out at her house when these deer came up to her house. And I'm thinking, well, apparently she called the exterminator for a reason, to have something killed because it was bothering her. And I really don't care if you're going to kill the deer, but you got to do something because they're just getting out of hand. And the ODNR person said that they were already out of hand, that we've waited too long. So you've got to do something.
Thank you.
Hi there, Nathan Case, 513 East Washington. I must admit I'm not sure why we're even here today. The topic at hand is overpopulation of the Medina City deer herd. There's no question that there are too many deer per square mile. It has been proven by the experts and confirmed by our residents. I must admit that deer are aesthetically pleasing animals, but that's not why we're here today. We're not questioning the strength when we see a 12-point buck silhouetted in a field. We're not questioning the grace of a doe and her fawn gracefully hiding away toward the woods in the morning. We're here to talk about a problem that has been proven by experts. Our problem is an overpopulation of deer, and the solution is clear. Birth control methods will only keep the deer population consistent. There will be no decline in population, and you cannot absolutely guarantee to capture and chemically inject every single doe. So at that rate, the population will still increase by some margin. The only valid solution is to kill some deer. And yes, I said kill. We need not hide behind words to make ourselves feel better. If you're honest, you're never wrong. This is not inhumane. This is a policy that is set up by every single nature-loving government wildlife entity. All state and government parks abide by this directive. If there is not a natural predator, we step in as humans and balance nature. We need to ask ourselves why we only have this concern about humanity within our deer population. Where was the outrage when we approved funding to kill mosquitoes? Where was the 3 meetings and a special committee when we said there's too many rats in public buildings and parking lots? Who opposed funding for the exterminator? We have a simple problem with a simple solution. We need to thin some of our deer population. No one here would second-guess wildlife population control if we were talking about a predator such as a wolf, an alligator, a cougar, snakes, sharks, or bears. But oddly enough, those predators don't kill as many humans as deer in car-related injuries annually. Now to the topic at hand. How do we kill a deer? We do exactly what every single elected government has done since the birth of our democracy. We choose the lowest bidder. We choose the most cost-effective plan with the best projected outcome. We let the people that want and don't mind killing deer get tags and do whatever they wish with the remains. Some hunters may choose to keep the meat for themselves, while others may want to donate it to a food bank. The long story short, this is the most cost-effective and efficient method. This is not a controversy or a display of being inhumane. Between flora and fauna, we have always chosen we need to choose what's right for the people. The only time nature needs our protection is if it's declining in population by means of our influence. Our city's deer are thriving. They are so unnaturally nourished that they're having 3 babies a year. They are so sheltered from natural predators that the only outcome is a larger population. Our city's deer population is the equivalent of dandelions in your front yard. You may try to prevent them, but the conditions are so perfect for them to flourish that you'll never win. So I say to my neighbors today, let's address this problem rationally and with our neighbors' best interest at heart. I urge our city leaders to make a difference because we cannot wait any longer to address this problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Elio Martin. I'm at 325 Forest Meadow Drive. I'm a bow hunter. I want to preface it with that. But I heard a lot of discussion tonight about flowers and property, and one aspect of this I haven't heard discussed was the deer. You know, if we have 6 times over what the habitat's supposed to handle, the problem is going to become that these deer are going to die of starvation and disease, you know, like the park director said. Short of a car accident, you know, a well-placed bow shot is really going to be the quickest and painless death for that animal. And I know it's really unfortunate. We'd love to see it flourish in the fields and in grazing. And I walk my neighborhood every day, and I see packs and packs of deer, and they are beautiful. But it's not really fair to the deer. So let alone our opinions on how we feel about that deer being killed. I only started hunting 2 years ago, and prior to that, I wouldn't have hunted. I was kind of disgusted by the process. And that realization of the quick and painless death for the animal is what drove me to do so. There's no retirement home for these deer. They don't just go and fade away. All other deaths are going to be way more gruesome than this. And honestly, starvation is going to be one of the worst, along with the disease. So, you know, the repellents and all that stuff's great, but honestly, I'm almost insulted by your math of having 600 deer. If we kill 200, it goes to 400, but what if we kill none? Then it goes to 800, then it goes to 1,000. Why do you feel that it's going to stop at 600? You know, at what point do we let this problem not get out of control? And I
my side is very clear here, but I also want to have compassion for the other side. I think we need more of that today. And I just wanted to advocate for the deer because there's nothing worse than seeing the deer on the side of the road and all the stuff we see. And all these deer crossing signs are great, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't think the deer can read. And I don't mean to make light of this situation because it's a very serious situation, but we have to ask ourselves the real problem here. And you know, all due respect to your product, sir, you know, having them not eat flowers isn't addressing the real problem here. We're giving them this sanctuary of Medina for them to flourish because there's no hunting, there's no deer management there. And that's the real problem. The problem, the problem isn't displacement. The problem is we're allowing them to grow. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce Gold, 407 Providence Drive. I'd like to address a couple of comments that were made and clarify. Mr. Lamb, you said that we didn't have any disease with the deer. That's not correct. Ohio has many recorded cases of chronic wasting disease. They even had one case, I believe, in Medina. Secondly, the deer and fencing. Deer have been recorded to jump 12-foot-high fences along the freeway. So a 4-foot or a 6-foot fence isn't going to prevent them. I know that because my fence is 7 foot, and yes, I did get a variance for that. And it is a 7-foot-high fence, and we've had deer jump our fence. So it can be done, they do it, and yes, they do have springs in their legs. Again, I'd like to reiterate the point that the deer repellent, and I give this gentleman kudos for developing one, but it doesn't reduce the population, and we need to have population reduction because there's just too high of a number of deer in the area, so you cannot coexist like that. The reason our area has so many deer isn't because we're developing property in the surrounding areas out in the quote-unquote rural portions of Medina. It's because they're coming in here because nobody's killing them. They don't have any natural predators in the area. They are just traveling into our area and they have stayed. If we get rid of deer, the deer here in Medina, that does not mean outlying parts of the rural population of deer are going to move into our city. We have to control the population that's here. I think the biggest problem is our perception of how we try to place human and equate human emotions to a mammal. Doesn't work, a four-legged mammal. It doesn't work. They are here. They know no other existence than the life they've had. And it is our responsibility to be able to control that population and manage it. There's only one way to manage it. You have to remove those deer. The cost of doing a deer birth control of some form or another is extremely high. It's is the city willing to go ahead and putting that kind of resource into a resolution that's going to come back again and again? Because if you think culling will happen, that we have to do that, where we have to do it every so often, every other year, every year, it doesn't matter. But the birth control method, you're going to have to do continually because it's not a one and done situation. So we're going to continually spend and expend city resources in order to do that. Is that something that the council's willing to do, is spend money for that? And again, I love deer. I like to watch them. And yes, I like to eat them. but it's a source that we can use and it's not going to waste. So the deer carcass is not being wasted. Hunters will use the resource, and if not, yes, we can donate it to food banks. There's a lot of programs in the state of Ohio. And, one other thing. I don't recall that the DNR official said we had to expend all other resources before he, quote unquote, would give permits to allow for the culling. He expected a plan, a management plan. And if that was culling, and then he can help direct and guide it, great. But he did not say that you had to have all of the resources expended before he would issue the permits. Thank you.
Just a correction, though. I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying, Bruce, but I did not say that we had to do that before he would do the permit. He said that what they expected when they do this is that before you go to culling, you should exhaust every other option. And he said it at the last meeting, and if you research his name, there are newspaper articles dating back to 2014 where he says the exact same thing, that you should exhaust every other option before you go to culling. The culling question is exactly as the Parks Director explained. We have the survey, we have a plan, they'll look at the numbers, they'll look at the traffic numbers, they'll look at all that information. And truthfully, that's where they come up with the number. They'll give you an exact number then of how many deer we call, whether it's what we talked about this morning, maybe 200, maybe it's 300. But that's how that program is decided. I'm simply quoting what he told me at the meeting and what he said was quoted out of newspaper articles that he was in.
I was here at the meeting, and so were several other individuals here who did not hear the DNR officials say we had to exhaust all other avenues.
Not here to debate, I'm just here to listen to you, but appreciate your comments.
Just making a statement, Mr. Councilman.
Like it. What? Okay. Yes, Denny? Denny, there's some more people up here who still want to talk.
My name's John Knox, live at 1107 Gentry Drive. Half our circle's here. We have a major problem in that area. We have 10 to 20 deer living in our woods. Bill, your numbers are way off. A first-year doe only has one baby. After that, it's game on. They have 2, 3, and so on. But Medina County Parks District has a program in place. I've participated in it. It's a good program. It's run by Jim Spetz. Is he still the one? Okay. I would reach out to him and look what they're doing. I mean, they just do controlled hunts in certain areas where high traffic areas are, where the deer are getting smashed. So they have a lottery drawing. You got to go qualify, and if you're lucky enough to get drawn, you get to hunt an area for a month. And it's all during bow season. So I would advise looking at that. I mean, our area is way overpopulated with deer. Like my wife said earlier, they're jumping a 7-foot fence and just eating everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bob?
All right, so I'm Bob Mahalko, 564 Woodland Drive. I've actually run for council a couple of times and have never spoke at a council meeting, so this is my first time. So
Welcome.
I'm not one of those people that complain. I have never called the mayor's office to mention about 15 deer that I've scooched. One pumped my bumper off my car on the way to a council meeting 3 years ago. So right by the cemetery and the courthouse parking garage. I was not going very fast because the light was red prior to me leaving the red light when I hit the deer. So, but it was enough to pop the bumper off my car. We have a huge problem, folks. Bill, I don't understand, Councilman Land, what you heard a couple weeks ago, but I heard the DNR rep when asked what our population situation was, that we had way, 3 ways too many deer in the city of Medina. He kept circling back when the folks that want to save, not do any programs, to a hunting on private property. That's what he said many times. He went on and talked about all the research and all the programs, and he kept circling back to bow hunting on private property. I could see the drama in that if a deer ran into the neighbor's yard that was against hunting on private property. I can see the kickback from people that have children watching a deer get shot in their backyard. So culling is probably the most humane way to do it. Anybody that drives around town has probably met our goofball deer that lives on Broadway Street along Broadway Creek. His tongue hangs down to his knee. He was obviously hit by a car, probably 3 or 4 times. He's been there for many years. He's suffering. I watch deer walking in and out of Reagan Park. I live right by Reagan Park, that walk like a camel. You know, they're hunchbacked. They've been hit by cars. They're suffering. There are too many deer in the city of Medina. I'm a little bit passionate. I love animals. I love all animals. There are too many deer in the city of Medina. And then, your comment earlier about the ticks. Are you a scientist? Let's bring that up. Do you know that there's no ticks problems? Do you know that the waste matter that the deer are leaving in my yard that my neighbor's scooping out every morning before she lets her dog out to the yard is a problem? In my neighborhood, I did just put up a fence around my patio, about 300 feet of fencing around my gardens, my patios. My neighbors were complaining as I was putting them up. Mr. Worley grew up in my neighborhood. I live on a little pond. The women, the neighborhood people in the neighborhood, they don't like fences. In fact, I think I'm probably not supposed to put up a fence, but I put it up close to the house. I'm living in jail in my own house. I have snow fence gates with bungee cords to put up and take down so that I can protect what's left of my yard from the spring. I've used every product there is. We put on the survey, we spent $1,000. I've spent that already this year. We've been talking about deer since 2013 at these meetings. Every neighborhood meeting when I ran for council and since, it brings up deer. Every door I knocked on, 3 out of 5 doors brought up, besides our crappy streets and sidewalks, deer. So streets and sidewalks are expensive. The deer I think we can fix. I would like to see, I understand it, I watched last week's council meeting and I saw the direction you were going tonight with saying surveys, our opinion, our surveys don't matter to the city of Medina. That's disappointing as people that we elect. I would like to see a proposal countering your proposal and also presented at the next meeting. A proposal of education. You've missed that ship. You've had 8 years to educate us. You've had 8 years to fix our terrible website. You've had 8 years to educate the people of the community, and you've done poorly. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, for your positive comments. Appreciate it. All right, that was great. Everybody got a chance to speak, I think, that wanted to. Do you want to wait till you want to go now? Go ahead.
Thank you. I've heard several comments tonight that this issue's been brought up to the city and city council, who was ever in those seats, since 2013. It's actually before then. And it isn't that the city's done nothing. In 2011 or 2012, the state of Ohio was notified by the city. I actually contacted the state of Ohio. Since the deer are the state of Ohio deers, are not our deer. And back then, they have relaxed their requirements to get a permit greatly. When we first started talking about it in 2011 or 2012, the only way you could obtain a permit was to hire the state of Ohio or a company that was provided by the state of Ohio to have planes fly over with infrared lights at a cost to the city taxpayers of between $115,000 and $140,000. So obviously we scrapped that idea right away. And when the Mayor Hanwell And whoever, if it was Bob or whoever, said yes at all our ward meetings, it was the deer problems. Asked the Parks Department and Mr. Worley in 2016 to start trying to collect our own data. And again, ODNR has relaxed their requirements to get a permit. We're all glad of that. But I'm just speaking as a councilman and has dealt with this for several years. The city and council has not sat back and done nothing. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Denny. Appreciate it. We're going to move to we're going to move to council now because it is 7:45.
Can I just ask one thing? Could you tell us where on the website we can post a comment about the deer? Because I can't find it.
I don't manage the website in any way whatsoever. I had nothing to do with the construction of the website.
Everybody here that can tell me where I can find it.
Right after
Yeah.
the meeting here.
After the meeting? Okay. Okay. Okay, the three of us are going to comment, and then we're going to close the meeting. So, Councilman Rose, you want to go first, and then we'll
Thank
move
you.
along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And we won't go
First
too
of all, I
long.
want to thank all of you for being here. Okay, it shows that there is an interest, one way or another, on what we do as a council here. I want to thank everybody for getting up and sharing their thoughts and their passions. I know this isn't an easy issue to decide. I think it's one that has to be decided, and it's one that we have to do something. For the amount of damage that is being done to property, and I'll tell you what, where it really hit me was one night walking through Forest Meadows. I'm one of the councilmen in Forest Meadows. When I saw one of the deer walking around on three legs and the other one going like this, it obviously was hit by a car because the car was going the speed limit. Okay? Take it from a guy who's hit four deer actually, but two deer doing 70 mile an hour or more, jumping over the median, and all I have time to do is, expletive. And that was it. And that deer went flying over the car. The second time, when I watched those hooves almost go through the windshield and get my wife, I mean, okay, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be in jail someplace. But to put together a plan that does not include culling is irresponsible, inhumane, and the absolute wrong thing to do for the city of Medina. While I appreciate everybody's comments and passion for trying to save the deer, we're going to let the deer, it's better to stop feeding the deer by putting these things up around so they won't eat our plants and everything, and let them starve and go off someplace to die, and the carcass has to be picked up by the city because it's stinking up the joint. Where a culling would allow and there's a couple of ways of doing things with this. We could do similar to what the county does, set up a lottery. People pay to take the deer. Then they take the deer and they keep part of the deer. Some of the deer, we could set up a plan where, say 60% goes to the food bank, 40% goes to the hunter, something like that. That all can be worked out at a minimal cost to the city. Is something that we can do to cut down the cost, to avoid the fear that we could put into neighbors who don't like this idea. We can start off in public properties, such as the parks, and where we have plenty of acreage, and follow prescribed safety methods, and I'll leave that up to the smart people to set that up, with bow and arrow, so that we don't have to worry about ricocheting here and there and everywhere, when we use professional, qualified hunters with professional, qualified equipment. Not something you buy at the hobby store here, but something that you buy from a professional hunting store. We will make it as painless and as humane as possible on the deer. That is the only thing that we can do here that is appropriate and proper. As my wife told me, God sees that there's a food shortage coming. We don't have to be too imaginative to see that coming. So God is giving us the food that we need in the nature of these deer that they're putting on the property, or in the city. Sterilization, yes, that is the other prong of this problem, of this approach here in this thing, where while we're reducing the herd and using the numbers that Jeff gave us the last time, he said we should have about 10 per square mile. We have about 12 square miles, so about 120 deer is what we should have based on those numbers. Is about what we should have here. Okay, we're 5 times over that. Okay, that has to happen. Sterilization is not, as the one gentleman said, sterilization is not going to reduce them. Sterilization will, at best, keep it level. So we can do a two-prong attack. We cull the deer, bring them down to a manageable size, while at the same time doing a sterilization. Do it for a year or two, evaluate, see where we are, and adjust. And I'm trying to look here, because I made a lot of comments and people already commented on them, so I'm not going to duplicate. But and one thing, a coexisting plan, as everybody knows, means that we go part way, they go part way. Who's going to teach the deer not to cross the street when another car's coming? Who's going to teach the deer not to eat plants? Who's going to teach the deer not to take a dump in my yard? Okay, that won't happen. Those things will still continue because they're a natural wild animal. So we need to bring it to a manageable level and keep the deer enjoying our city as we enjoy them, but not let them overrun. Or we'll end up just like Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, with overrun things that aren't overrun with undesirable items. Thank you.
Paul, are you talking about immigrants?
No, I'm talking about the drugs that are coming in with it.
Thank you, Paul. Councilwoman Hazeltine?
Hello, friends. I have my mask on. I've been sick. Dolly, I did get your email, and I'll wish you that. I did get your email. I've just been sick, so I have not been doing a lot of anything besides feeling sorry for myself. So, let's just take a second here to appreciate my position sitting here. I am the only one up here that will ever be up for re-election, so let's sit with that for a second. I see value in everyone's points. I want to thank everyone who did contact me, because I asked you to contact me and let me know your thoughts, and you did, and I appreciate that, because I can't do anything without any information, and you gave me information and then some, so I appreciate that very much. I have spent endless amounts of time on the phone with, Ed Kinney, our police chief. I've talked to Jansen, I've talked to the mayor, I've talked to Bill, I've talked to Paul. This committee is like a weird version of like 2.5 men, and somehow I'm the half. I've got 2 dads in my ear. One wants to kill the deer, one does not. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle here. My allegiance obviously is with the residents, and the residents have spoken, and the residents have said there are way too many deer. So we're going to do something, but I don't know that we've fully fleshed out what exactly we're going to do. The culling and the killing, it seems alarming to some people. We're getting to that step awfully fast. And then there's other people that say, oh, we've been dragging our feet on this for the last 8 years, 10 years. We need to do something. So without a doubt, something needs to be done. I think we can all agree that killing is not our first plan. We need to exhaust every possibility, as Mr. Lamb had said. Jansen, I guess my question is, do you feel that our program that we've had in place since 2016 is the best that it could be? Have we done the best that we could with that program, with educating the public and doing all the measures that Mr. Lamb talked about? Do you feel that it has been as robust as possible?
There are certainly some things that we can improve on that some folks have mentioned tonight, making the website more accessible, having a center, either a main phone line, or instructing city staff to point people to the proper contact, and differentiate between a formal complaint and a formal site visit. It also does take a lot of staff time to do that and manage all of that. To answer your question about is what we're doing now effective, I guess how I would summarize that is like, because I go and deal with these site visits and speak with the homeowners and listen to their concerns and listen to the types of products that they're using and look at their plant species. And it's essentially like going to work without any tools other than my knowledge. So a nuisance feeding ordinance is certainly helpful because many of these situations I go and look at are directly related to pattern deer movement usually. They're mainly the people that are calling and concerning because it's more than just their landscape beds, it's their lawn, it's the waste, it's legitimate nuisance concerns. That would be the motion that was made. It would be a great first step.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you saying is that we perhaps have not done as good a job as we could have in those steps leading up to rolling out a culling program. Okay. That's why I asked. That's why we question. So you do think that we've put all of our efforts into that it's going as well as it could?
I'll answer that. We could do a lot of things if we had a bunch of money and a bunch of staff. We have neither of. And with the staff that we have and the money we've had, we've done a great job. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe the website could be easier to find. We'll correct that with Jared by putting in search words. I know this gentleman brought up insurance companies. Every person in this room could have a different insurance company, and we only have a small representation of the city sitting here. I have no idea who you have for insurance, let alone assigning somebody to call them and check and see if they've had any deer reports for us. So within the limits that we have, I think our staff has gathered as much data and as much information that's helpful to at least show the trend of what is occurring in our city. We're seeing the number of deer carcasses go up. We're seeing the number of injuries and complaints increase. And it follows the same trend as what we're seeing with the counts, that everything is going up and will continue to go up until we do something to stop that flow.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to sit and absorb for a minute and let the chairman take over.
Is Councilman Shields
No,
here?
he's not.
Okay, sorry. Okay, well, first let me say it was a good discussion. I appreciate everybody's cooperation and the way you approach your comments tonight. It is a pretty wonderful thing that we can sit in the same room together, and we are not sarcastic, we are not critical of people, we're not putting people down. The fact of the matter is, getting elected to council, you actually have to make these decisions and come up with a resolution. I did not say any time actually publicly for or against. Paul's one way, I'm the other way. What I have said tonight, I think, I tried to spell out as clearly as I could. I think it's important that we are absolutely accurate in the information that we have to make a decision. I think that it's important to understand that if you call 200 deer or 300 deer, if the state says you can call 400 deer, we have more parkland per capita in this city than any other city in the state of Ohio. We are surrounded by many rural areas. The deer will come back. We will have the deer back. So if we say, okay, let's call the deer, it will be an easy, we can approach that right now and say it's an easy thing, let's do it. But if you have 10 deer in your neighborhood and you have plants, they will probably come and eat them. So what I have proposed was simply that we take enough action, that we look deeper into this, we make sure we've done everything, and as I said, if it's not helpful, then we would have to take another course. The deer ordinance that we passed tonight has existed for almost 2 years. It would be in place, it would have been put in place 2 years ago with the cats and dogs in it. It went through this committee twice. Everybody voted for it. It went to council with an appearance of 6 votes to pass that ordinance. But a half a dozen people showed up and opposed the cats and dogs vehemently. And all of a sudden, the vote for that ordinance went from 6 to 2. One was the president of council, one was me. There's a lot of you here tonight that I understand clearly what you would like us to do. I am listening to what you're saying. I think that we work to do the right thing. But you do not want your elected officials, the people that have actually been elected to council, to make a decision simply based on how many people turn out. I never said I was ignoring the survey. What I have said was it was a surprising number of people I saw on the survey. It was a great response, and it was surprising to me because we have so few complaints that we can actually look and see we had those people call up and bring that issue to us. We spend money here every day. No, we spend money on things simply to promote this community. We spend a lot of money on Christmas lights. We spend a lot of money because we want this community to be the best place it can be. That's what we want. And in this case, it is what we all want, whether we agree or disagree. All I'm saying to you is we will arrive at a good decision. We will hopefully make some improvements. And in the end of the day, we hope we provide a good service to you. It may not be tonight. It's not tonight. It may be the 28th of June. And you may agree or you may disagree. And amongst us and the administration, we may agree and disagree. But it is a pretty healthy and wonderful thing that we can sit here tonight and have this conversation in such a peaceful way. And you know full well that there are enough people here that there will be a decision made. So I certainly appreciate your turnout. I appreciate you listening to me, to the other council members that are here, members of the administration, because that's how government, local government in particular, is supposed to work. So thank you, and I hope to see you back here in June.
Thank you all.